Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Alana. It is the 10th. It is the last session of the summer boot camp for people who were designing research and were writing their proposals. This is all about end game. This is looking forward more past where you are now to getting that proposal turned in, and what does that look like? And there's some variation in that story. There's also a poll going on in the room, which has people answering whether or not they want this group to continue. And if they do, yes has gotten the biggest vote on that. Do you want to attend group meetings, be a couple times a month, where there'd be a short, you could ask questions beforehand in WooClap. There would be a short presentation by me answering those questions. And then people could have sent in their work as data and we could review that. People can make goals. What we hear is that this work, the independence of this work gets hard, especially as we go into fall where family obligations and work obligations and other things begin to have a stronger effect on our lives. And so we really want you to have support and felt like this ongoing group. And then the last question was whether or not people wanted to stay in Big Marker or go on to Zoom. And Big Marker is winning. So that's good, because we know that there are sometimes issues with Big Marker, and should you ever be someone who has difficulty with this system, they do have support at bigmarker.com to help you get through it. But it looks like that's the way this group is going to go, and that we are going to have a group and we are going to schedule it. So for the chat, and then we'll go on with what we're talking about today. For the chat, would a group at essentially this time of day, maybe an hour later on Wednesdays, twice a month, would that work for you? Either raise the hand that's in the chat if it would work, or say yes or no to me in the chat box as I get started. And those of you who are watching by recording, please note that this is going to go on, and that's kind of what we're moving for. You'll be notified. Everybody who signed up for this will be notified. So let's see, we had a bunch of, so people are agreeing that it's good to go back. Is it, and the Big Marker Zoom, is it possible to do a bit of both? The thing is, we can't, Zoom pops on calendars more easily. But Big Marker sends things. So would Zoom allow for more interaction? You know, I think or could we have more interaction here? Could we have the webcam and microphone going on here? I think the Zoom meetings I've attended lately, most people have not really wanted their pictures up, but they have wanted to talk. So we can have a work in progress. We can schedule the first two in September, and then we can, during those two, have a discussion, and maybe the first one in October we could make on Zoom and we could see what that was like, or meanwhile we could try here having more interaction potential, because you can have your webcams and mics on. It's a matter of how we set it up. So good, at least it looks like it's moving forward. That time works. See, the recordings are nice when it doesn't work. Christy's saying it'd be nice to have the recordings. The recording business much easier in Big Marker. Zoom, it works, but it's compared to Big Marker, it's a pain in the neck. Big Marker, very easy. They have the list of who signed up. They have the video. They send you the link. I don't even have to worry about the download, get it up on the site right away. Otherwise, that would be challenge. Alan would vote for an hour earlier. Alan, would an hour later work? It's kind of looking as though an hour later would be would allow for some greater flexibility in other parts of the world. It would allow our colleagues in California to come more easily. Okay, so that's our discussion. Thank you very much for caring and for wanting to be part of it. Now, quick reminder. So this is your last week, and there will be a time in August where if you have a university subscription, you'll go to PD Education and it won't be there. It will tell you you haven't enrolled. We thought we'd do that actually in another couple of weeks. We might push it closer to the end of the month. Here's our challenge. Legally, we have to undo people before we redo them in the fall because of privacy and security issues. People have graduated. They shouldn't be still on our list is what it amounts to. So almost everybody leaves in August. If you're someone coming from a brand new university to us, we're making some arrangements about that, but most of you will have a time when you're dark, and I just want to prepare you for that. We will have open office hours. That's what we're discussing now. Or I don't know that I'll call them open office hours. We will have these group meetings for pre-proposal people, post-data people, and I think there will be a general conversation about wellness and good health and keeping our happiness on and not getting unhappy or upset. Challenging times in graduate work right now. Challenging because we don't know what's happening on the campuses with COVID. Challenging, good possibility for people to let their anxiety run. And so we're going to reach out for some wellness things. I don't know exactly what they look like yet, but I know we're going to be doing some. At the end today, I will give you some links for some new groups and the box sets that are just opening. So you can have some things to sign up for. Also, it's that time of year, I guess, when lots is going on. I'm announcing the fact that my latest book, Navigating the Hidden Curriculum of Graduate School, Thriving in and Out of Academic Life, is in its final edits. And I will be happy to send a PDF copy to people who would like to see it, with the idea that you would be able to or interested in writing a review for it. Alan's asking if I could just give you a diploma now and then. What I can do, Alan, though, is PD Education does give you endorsements. So when you attend a lot of things, and all of you who actually attended 7 or more of the things this summer, you can apply for an endorsement, and in it you write on a spreadsheet. It's all up at the site. You'll see the thing. You write a spreadsheet about why you did that and what you hope to get out of it, and then what you actually got out of it. And I write a letter using that information to a future employer that says, you know, this person goes over and above what's required of them. And these are examples of how they sought out their own learning and how it went forward. Our ability to learn on our own establishes us at the top of the pile when we're going for new work, especially in any environment where things change as fast as these change. So how do you get the book? Is you send me an email to Alana at doctoralnet, that's the company name, .com. You can send it to Alana at PD Education too, and then if you want an endorsement, you go to the site and you click on endorsements, and there will come a page and you can download the PDF and an example PDF to show you what we're shooting for, so that I have enough to write on, and an example letter so you know about what you would get. Lots of news today, huh? Okay, you asked last week that I talk a bit about proposal defense, or VIVA. and I have it in a couple of sections today. So first off, just to comment that this differs around the world. United States and Canada generally have a defensive proposal that looks very much like your final defense in lots of ways, maybe a little lighter. But you will be, in that case, you would be presenting your ideas to a few people at the same time. Final defense looks different in different parts of the world as well. It's called a viva in a lot of the world. And sometimes the people who are your supervisor all the way through, what some of your universities call your committee chair, that person is often one of the committee in the United States, probably Canada as well, but in the rest of the world, probably they may not be. So I'm going to give you some generalities, but you have to find out the specifics at your university. So who's in the room? Well, whoever they are, they will have different points of view. And that's actually the thing that you need to know what you're doing. You're playing to different points of view, all looking at your work. And the reason for that is because we do have different points of view. We count the wobbles. We catch them. And that's the same idea behind peer review, and everything you will ever write will be peer reviewed. So we just get used to it in academic life. In a proposal stage, mostly they will want to pass your work, but they are going to look for the things that you may not know or that would catch you up after you're getting data, and that you should take into consideration. If you're writing for a proposal in another part of the world, and in some parts of the world, you don't have such a formal proposal, you have some kind of meetings, but it's the same idea. I'm showing you my work and you're telling me what might catch me up, but probably you want to let me get going. Probably I'm at the stage you want to let me get going. There's a semi-legal outcome in the United States, and that's the reason that many of you are writing a full 3 chapters and you're going through something that looks and feels a lot more like the final defense in the rest of the world. Because in the United States, depending on the state, you legally have, the university must give you a diploma as long as you finish the work in that proposal to an academic standard. And it's a protection for you, because it used to be that if your supervisor left, a new supervisor would come in and then they could change your whole life. So they can't do that if you have a proposal that has been defended. And there's litigation possibility depending on the state and other things. So how is all this practical? That's the nuts and bolts of it, but how is it practical? My point to you is to keep your focus on the importance of the structure you are building. Every lecture I have given you for the last 10 weeks has built a structure. I have put these together with the idea of showing you where wobbles happen so that they won't happen in your work and you will pass all the defenses easily. So that's the first thing. Keep your eye on the structure. Don't get so caught up in what you are saying or your topic that you lose sight of the structure. Second thing is to learn how to defend. And what does that mean? Defense is listening first. Isn't that funny? But it's true. So somebody says something and you first listen and consider, and then you come up with a couple of options. You might say, I thought of that and I looked into that, and this is why I chose this direction. Or you might say, I didn't think of that. What do you think would be the positive outcome of that? Why should I look into it? And then, fine, I'll get back to you. But I want you to remember that this is your work. This is not, at this point, people will respect the fact that you are guiding your own ship as long as you have a focus on the structure and you know how to defend your ideas. So those are the practical considerations here. At the end of the day, what do these people pass judgment about? First and foremost, it's going to be their background and their experience. I have sat in on, I don't know, hundreds of committees, and they're all different because I'm sitting with two new people and they have different backgrounds. And I come in with some set things that people can kind of count on from me, and other people have very different set things. And we all talk about the work together, trying to get the best possible outcome for the student and to protect the university from work going through that we would not feel was valid. So I'm just going to quickly, not talk in depth because I've done it in some webinars, but I want to introduce you to the work of Barbara Lovitz, who did a lot of things about how these things are graded. And this is the same, these ideas are the same whether you're pre-proposal and you have some kind of a defense, or whether you're at the end. So her work was grading dissertations, but it's true for all of them. She found that nobody could quite agree on what they were saying, and so she held focus groups, and they came up with 3 different levels. The ones that they judge outstanding have these qualities. And I just, take a glance. Very well written and organized, synthetic and interdisciplinary. Asks new questions and addresses an important question or problem. Results are significant, has rich data from multiple sources. See, there's a sense here of research at its best, at its richness. And then we have judged acceptable, demonstrates technical competence, shows the ability to do research, has weak structure and organization, is narrow in scope, uses standard methods. Not so exciting. We really, but I want to remind everybody that these pass. These are the ones that still graduate. Okay, so probably where you're steering your ship is to 2 or 3 of these judged outstanding, and then not to give yourself a heart attack if these are where you are most of the time. This is the list you want to stay away from. Poorly written, spelling and grammatical errors, you know that. But looks at a question or problem that is trivial, weak, unoriginal, or already solved. So that's the one that your committee should get you out of right now. Has weak, inconsistent, or self-contradictory, unconvincing arguments. We talked a lot in this 10 weeks about the argument you are building. So yours are going to be convincing because you know how to put all the pieces in place to convince them. Does not handle theory well, does not make a contribution. And yours are going to make a contribution because we talked about significance, and you're going to write what that significance is. So you're avoiding some of these. You're being okay with this if that's just you, and then you're shooting for a few of these. Now, I'm going to answer some questions that came into WooClap, but one of them is, can you advise what are the questions that committees often ask? I have more, but these are the basic ones, and I'll get to the more in a minute. And then, so what does this look like? If you are doing a formal defense, it could be that everybody should have read your work to date, and they come together and there's a meeting. The meeting might have, the final defense usually has, but this pre-proposal defense might have you doing a slideshow. And in today's world, it's probably virtual. So, it'd be useful for you to put a few slides together about your work, to remind them of what they read, because they might not have read it last night. And you should be prepared for these kinds of questions. In a few sentences, tell us what your study is about. What's your motivation? How will this study contribute? You have the slides, they're up in handouts. You can take them with you and prepare. But why did you choose these methods? What other methods did you look for? Those are the basic questions. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have had some things come in WooClap, and I thought I'd give them some focus. So I noticed in the chat that some of you are coming in to second or third time, so you may not have been at the beginning when I really stressed how the system works here. As we do webinars, there is often a WooClap address at the bottom of the webinar, and people can then go there prior to the webinar and ask questions, which I will try to answer. If questions come in and so if you put a question in and you can't actually make that webinar, you have pretty good chance that your question is going to get answered anyway, and you can watch it in the recording. I must say I don't always get them, but I really try. So let's just look at these. And some of these came in just because it was the end and people wanted me to talk about these things. What suggestions do I have for doctoral students? This would be the same for master's students who want to publish journal articles. You're all doing very good research. Why shouldn't you publish journal articles? You're also writing lit reviews. Those can be published articles. So the big suggestion is that you look up Get Published on the pd.education site, where we take you through it step by step. Okay, so that's the big thing. Second thing is, a lot journals have editors, and editors have ideas about what their magazine or journal does. And so you have to make sure your work fits. And then, just like what we've talked about here, you get several models from that journal and you write to that model and then you send it in, and you have a pretty good chance, if those two things are true, of getting published. The rest is good. We also have a new box set, not yet ready, but coming, that is Writing Your Passion, which is from a series that I gave a couple of summers ago. So writing and publication, a lot of it on the PD Education site, and those things will help you when you're ready to do that. Am I hosting webinars again in the fall? Of course. We do about 90 webinars a year. This fall, if all things go well, we're also going to have professors from the universities that we serve coming in and doing things on their fields. So watch for a robust webinar experience this fall. Fingers crossed, we're still putting it together. This might not be relevant. However, my question is, would I recommend applying for a full-time job as someone who doesn't have their dissertation done yet, and then while working to finish the dissertation? I always recommend looking for new work if it's the right work to look for. And I have seen finishing stall out because it's difficult to write. New jobs take a lot, and dissertation writing takes a lot. So if you're willing to put your life on hold for a while, you can probably do them both. If you have a big life too, and that can't always go on hold, maybe you want to hold off on the full-time job. But I'm someone who tends to take on more than it can possibly be done, and then somehow I figure out how to do it. Getting up at 5 a.m. doesn't disturb me. So I'm defending my dissertation virtually and wondering what tips would be successful. Are there resources about this? There were a couple of things we did earlier this. So if you go on to the PD Education site, there were some webinars on presentations, virtual presentations. I kind of geared it a little bit towards virtual interviews, but in essence, a defense is an interview. So I think you might get a lot out of that webinar. And look under, if you could look on the left-hand side of the site, it's probably tagged job prep. I'm pretty sure it's tagged job prep. And it should come up, or you can write Siobhan and ask her for the link to the webinar on virtual interviews. So that's one helpful piece. What else about virtual? Well, I think you have to treat a virtual like it's the real thing. Actually, I think I'd prefer it because it's easier to be, in my opinion, it's easier to be in front of a screen of people looking at me than it is to be in front of a room of people looking at me. And Zoom, you can look at everybody. Probably it's a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, and then you can look at everybody across, and that's a little easier than doing this if there's a lot of people that you're playing to. Dress the same, practice the same, have your slides up. We will certainly have room in our groups for people to practice defense prior to it happening. Because you're only given 10 minutes. So you have to do a lot in a little period of time. All the stuff that you do whenever you're going to speak in front of public, if you're nervous about speaking in front of people, then you practice, and you get all the questions practiced as well. I think that's probably my best off-the-cuff advice. Can you advise what are the questions that committees often ask? Okay, so because that had come up and I knew it, there are 2 slides here after this that are pretty in-depth questions. I did this work a couple of years ago. I hope the links are still good, but I looked for blogs and things about people saying what they ask in defense. And so you have 2 pages there. They're in your handouts. And you never get them exactly right, but you'll get the tenor of them. And if you can practice those, you'll know what you're bad at. And then you have to practice what you're bad at. Because some of these, you're going to look at that question and you're going, and we're just know that as researchers, we have good things that are easy to talk about, things that's not so easy to talk about. For me, it's really easy to talk about the outcome of my studies and good things that are happening in education because of the things I'm studying. It is not so easy for me to talk about the results in data and methodological terms. I have to work at that. So we all have our pros and our cons. It might be lit is your one you're not good at. Figure it out, get good at it, keep repeating it, bore everyone you know and your dog and your cat too until you get comfy with it. Can you describe what actually happens in defense, initial and final? You come into a space, virtual or not. You present your work in some way that they have told you beforehand it should be presented. They have looked at it prior to being there and they ask questions. You defend, so you do that, what I said earlier, you listen, you think, you consider, and you give back information. But in the initial defense, you're asking them, do you think I need to do this? Because they're guiding you in the initial defense, they're correcting you in the second defense. So in the second defense, if you can defend your idea, they don't put that in as a correction. If in the initial defense, if you can't defend your idea, they give it to you as a correction, as a something you have to do. And I'm sure they're all going to be virtual. I'm just relatively sure everywhere in the world they're going to be virtual. And then this last one, I have a committee member who's almost hostile, making me feel like an idiot. Happened during my preliminaries, which got me pretty flustered. It only heightened my imposter syndrome even more. What suggestions do you have for handling anxiety and keeping your mind in the game when someone acts like that? It's not guaranteed that the people that are in the room will treat you with the respect that you deserve. But I think the most important thing is that you know that you deserve that respect. And 100%, your universities believe you deserve that respect. So if you are in a situation where you're not given the respect you deserve, you have a complaint that you can take to your graduate school and it will be heard. In the meantime, though, hopefully the other people in the room are strong enough to say, oh, I don't know if that's necessary, or something like that, to kind of tone it down, because you are in front of a committee. And the purpose of being in front of a committee is that they should all keep each other in line. Now, I have heard of, never participated in one because I probably wouldn't have let it happen, but I have heard of where it went the wrong way, where there was an outside examiner and he was a very powerful person, and the people up from the university kowtowed to his opinion, and he said basically, how stupid can you be kind of comments. If it's over the top, at the time I heard this story, I was at a conference, and I actually suggested at that time that the person have their phone and just put the phone up and say, would you mind repeating that? Because I think a lot of people might not allow themselves to be taped saying something that they just said that was really egregious. And you could probably pull it off if it was the outside person, and it'd be very, have some political ramifications. But at some point, bullies are bullies, and we just have to say, stop. Okay, so imposter syndrome. It's that thing that goes on inside of us that is that little voice that says we shouldn't be here, we're not really as good as we think we are. So one of the things that I did, that somebody had me draw that voice once, big ugly thing, and then shrink it, and then shrink it, and then shrink it, and I finally had a little drawing of the same thing, and the point was, carry it with you. You're not going to get rid of it. It doesn't go away, but shrink it to the size where you can hold on to it. Yeah, you aren't really sure you belong here, but you know what? The people you're looking at might not be sure they belong here either, because imposter syndrome runs rampant in universities. So just assume that maybe they've got their own little guy, and let's all get on with it without that. So, good questions. WooClap does a lot for us. I really hope that all of you get used to writing questions, because you see, when you put them in like this, it becomes a vital conversation. So that's what happens with WooClap. Okay. Wow, I finished pretty quick today. I would like to know more about where you started and how far you are now. And I would like to know more about what your next goal is. If I won't see you until, I think I actually have us, I'm thinking about the second, bear with me while I look at the calendar I just set up on the PD Education site. If you scroll ahead, you're going to see that there is some stuff beginning to be on it for September. And I have groups, this group, pre-proposal group, once in September, and that's on the 16th. And then regularly after that, on the 1st and the 3rd Wednesdays at 5 p.m. So, and I think I'll stick with that unless I hear from tons of you it won't work. But, and we will, if we have trouble, if we have low numbers and we can always look at changing, but it allows me to set up pre-proposal people on Wednesday at that time, and then on the alternate Wednesdays at that time, the people with data. So the two boot camps go forward. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. There is a forum for you. So how do you get in touch? When you're working away, how do you get in touch? And the answer is the forum. So 5 p.m. is 12 Eastern. So it is 1 hour later. 5 p.m. is 12 Eastern. Yeah, so there's a forum. You go to the PD Education site and you look up the self-directed learning. First, it's the first menu. There's a forum on the first menu, and you go in, and there is a forum, conversations for people who are designing research, conversation for people who are just beginning to write. People in this group probably are in both of those conversations, but you might be asking a research design question, you might be asking a writing proposal question, and those the reason I separated them out. So you have a forum. Oh, and forget the early AM question. It may be early for some of you. That particular slide, though, was for teachers who are going to meet at 5 a.m. their time. But we're setting up these forums. Okay, that takes that on. Oh, and I have special new things for you. Let me. There is, you all should have received an evaluation by email, and I would like you to do it, please, as a favor to me. Please do it, because those evaluation data really make a difference, and you can think it through and say things and give us a scope of where we are. That's really very, very useful for long-term planning. So please do that. And I'm going to go now to the screen and start because I want to show you where these new things are. So you sign into whatever your PD Education site looks like. And it's going slow because it's screen sharing and I didn't have it up. So we'll wait for it. There we go. And if you go to resources under opt-in experiences, if you haven't found them yet, the opt-ins are things delivered by email that come over a period of time. So there's 3 new ones. A research design group, an academic writing group, and a finishing research group. And they're secrets because there will be, when we do things in Zoom, we'll send it to that group that we're doing it. When we do things, when we have webinars that go for one of those 3 things, the group will hear about the webinars too. So it'll be a way to ensure that you are kept up on stuff even when you're very busy and you're not as involved as you are now. Otherwise, take a look at the rest of the things on this page. There's some pretty good 3D experiences. The other thing I want to show you are our box sets. They're almost done. We have to finish these, but there's a summer post-data box set from that boot camp, and there's a summer pre-proposal, that's this one, from this boot camp, and there will be a Write Your Passion and Get Published one as well. So you sign up for those, and when they're ready, you can have them. They will come to you. Just to let you know, if you don't get things you sign up for, it's because frequently people sign up, but earlier they unsubscribe from emails or something like that. So if you like what goes on here, don't unsubscribe from emails. Once you're unsubscribed, you can't get it back. Okay, that's me today. What's up with you? Where have you come from? Where are you now? What are you going to do this month? I think that's the question, is what are you going to do for the rest of the month? And if you have any questions, you can ask them. Last time I joined a session, I was struggling with being consistent of reading through the literature. Now I have settled into a good rhythm. My daily goals are to read at least one article and write at least one page every day in August. Yes. I hope to have a draft of my proposal done at the end of the month. So just, Renitra, about in the middle of this series, I did in the slides, I did those where you have this, like the left-hand side might be background or significance, the middle part might be lit, the right-hand side part might be methodology. So bear in mind what I said at the beginning, always keeping the structure in your mind as you're writing. And when we write over time, it happens with me with books, it happens with everybody who writes big things over time, we get to where we get, oh, did I say that before? Or maybe I thought I said it, but it really, I need to say it if I haven't. So keep the structure where it goes. So you know, oh, I need to say this, and it needs to be in this section under your mind. And then that will go really easily. Congratulations on finding a good rhythm. That's so important, right? Like a fiend. Well, fiends are good. You also Jennifer, be good to yourself. Fiends, sometimes we eat ourselves alive, so watch out for that one. But it's good to get a certain amount of work done. It's good to keep working on the not urgent, important, and then let the urgents go to later on in the day when we're not as fresh. We'll be able to take care of them then. Finish your lit review and methodology. Hold you to it. Okay, so Erica, it's unlikely that lit reviews don't often get, let me put it this way, because I don't want to say, just let me say that lit reviews frequently get written in stages. So I'd feel more comfortable with that if you were saying you'd finish your methodology and write at least your first draft of your lit review. Because there are things that go on once you have them all together that revise and revise and revise that lit. Just to let you know, keep in mind that some things are draft and iterative. Very good. Penelope, it is a practicum master's. Great fun. We learn a lot, but doesn't set us up for all this stuff. So just know that with PD education, you have it really there. There's so many resources on the site, and you can always write Siobhan and ask for resources on stuff. Actually, let me give you two names. Margie at pd.education. See if I can spell education right. And or Siobhan, which you might have seen before. She's the one that'll get you your slides at pd.education. Those two email addresses, you should, when you get, first use the search. First go to the site and say, left-hand side, general searches on our 10 tags, right-hand side, specific searches, see what's there. Do look at the self-directed learning, because do look at the search by phases, but also you have help. You have personal help. Let's see, is Alice next? Started to put together my concept paper. I hope to defend the proposal by the end of November. Alice, I think that's quite doable. What I'm doing now is to put aside an hour a day to write and research. That's lovely. And if you're doing it and you have a solid proposal, which yours seemed very solid when we reviewed it, November seems quite doable. Consistent reading and a draft of proposal by the end of the month. Okay, Christy, that's a big one. So if you're not working right now, quite possible, especially depending upon how big a proposal your university requires. Goal this month is finishing the coding of 42 interviews. I'm halfway through it. During coding, I start to do initial and analyzing, and I need to keep revisiting that. Makes it a bit longer. Yeah, that's what happens with codes. And the other thing is that then you decide, what does this code exactly mean? And you have to go give yourself a definition. So you're building your coding matrix too. So there's a lot of pieces that go on in your head during coding, Pippa. It's true. I wish we all had it perfectly in our heads when we started, but I've never been able to. I have found a graduate who had my chair. She is reviewing my funnel now. Good, helpful. While she is doing that, I will be in the midst of seeing videos and continuing your assessments. Good, Pat. Oh, yeah, so Penelope, just here, I can give it to you now. You just need to go to, let me get you the link. Here. So go to this link, Penelope, sign in with your university email, just like you always did with UNH, and then just select demo. And then you'll be able to use the demo site. Okay. Wrote 150 pages for your Bachelor of Science, 300 for your Master's of Science. Suggestion to actually write fewer pages even for a doctoral program. Yes. Being concise counts, Alan. Having it so solid, so dense, so beautifully analyzed. Those are good. But look at that list I gave you today about what you're shooting for. Synthetic and sophisticated is not usually a tome. And then you have to be, in today's world, people have too much to read. So you want your readers to take something with them. Too many pages, it will sit on the shelf. Learning to be concise is a struggle. My team is forever beating on me because I use too many words and too long a words. So we just have to get better. Beer is better than books at some point. Yeah, I see what you're getting to. It is, we need to be able, I think if you're not aware of the 3-minute thesis, go look on YouTube for 3-minute, they're called 3MTs or 3-minute thesis. Your universities likely do them. Most universities do now. Watch for it. It's a very, very good exercise in concise. That's good. Thank you for that, Alice. Joshua Shamel, Writing Science, to help you with run-on writing style. Yeah. If you're going to write for a journal article, you're only given so much space, so we might as well get good at it now. That was a really fun conversation. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn off the... Oh, and more than one likes this Joshua Shamel's book, Bedtime Reading. So glad. It's nice to get to know each other, isn't it? You'll get to know each other more, and maybe we'll have times when we're all up and we can see each other. It's good to have community. and to know that there are other people who are going through the same issues and struggles. So as you meet people, as you are in class, as you're seeing other people struggle, please send them here. Make sure they know, because at average, 10 to 15% of a university graduate population uses us. And that has to tell me that most don't know, don't get. More than 10% would find helpfulness here. So it's time to spread the word. Okay, that does it for me today. I'm turning off the recording. Thanks to everybody who watched by recording.